Hi everyone, it's John from WoTUp, and welcome back to another video and a whole new channel. For those of you following me over from WoTUp, thank you so much for sticking with me here and coming to a brand new channel. Don't worry, WoTUp is still my baby. You're still going to see a ton of quality wheel-time content coming from me, including leaks, behind-the-scenes stuff, interviews, breakdowns, all of that stuff will still be there. For those of you who don't know, and if you're new to this channel, I'm sort of a Wheel of Time expert. I've read the series over 60 times, and I cover everything on the show and the books over in my other channel. Link to that one is down below in the description box. But it was brought to my attention that perhaps I should branch out a bit, because variety is the spice of life, and I can't just keep reading and talking about the same thing over and over again. So I decided to make a whole new channel. We're going to talk about every other fantasy property here. We're going to talk about everything from Vox Machina, which that's what we're going to talk about today, to See over on Apple Plus, The Witcher, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. That's a big one. There's a trailer out. We're going to talk about that later on too. There's all kinds of stuff that they're upcoming on the channel. We're going to break things down. We'll break down episodes. You name it, we're going to do it here, and I'm going to cover all of the fantasy news, and we'll condense it into an easy-to-digest platform. So I hope you folks are as excited as I am to try some new things, or maybe for you folks it's not new. I don't know, but for me it is, so I'm pretty excited about it. But today we're going to talk about Vox Machina. Now, Vox Machina is an animated show over on Prime Video. It's based on the Critical Role web series, and I did know what Critical Role was. I'm not going to lie to you. I did watch a lot of their web series back from the inception in 2015 for quite some time. So when the show came out, I was pretty excited, but it kind of got shuffled to the back burner for me, and I just recently watched it. What brought me to the forefront is I watched a few of the episodes, I get very excited about it, and then Amazon actually contacted me and wanted me to do a little bit of marketing on my social media platforms for the show for a couple of stores local to Seattle. I'm not in Seattle, by the way, I'm in Canada. But I did that, and that got me more and more interested in Vox Machina, and then I ended up binging the whole thing a couple of times, and I really enjoyed the series, so I wanted to include that here in the channel. So my socials are down below, so my Twitter, my Instagram, all of that is down below in the description box. Make sure you follow me there for all of your Wheel of Time and fantasy news. We're going to talk about that stuff there. But today we're diving into Critical Role and Vox Machina and exactly what is this phenomenon. All right, so Vox Machina, like I said, is a animated series on Prime Video. Based on a web series. Now, the web series was Critical Role. It's basically a bunch of people that got together and played D&D. And they did it every Thursday on Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. It was really cool. It was a whole lot of fun. I'm a big D&D nerd. I taught my kids how to play. I DM for them. Now my kids DM for me. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. I've been playing since I was very young. And when stuff like this came out, I tended to watch it because even when I couldn't play, I could watch other people play it, and it made me kind of happy. So this thing went for forever. I mean, there's literally hundreds of episodes of this. There's a ton of them, but the show itself, Vox Machina, is basically their very first adventure. So the first season we're talking about here, the first 2 episodes, is a brand new sort of grown-up adventure for the team, and they kind of dealt with, I'm not going to say too much because I didn't give spoilers for the series, but they dealt with something that really wasn't covered in the web series, Critical Role, but it was really very neat. After that, they went on to their very first campaign that dealt with in and around Briarwood. Very, very cool. Pretty much every episode after that dealt with that, and there's a lot of parallels to the campaign, a lot of inside jokes, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of different things that we saw in the show that, if you were a fan of Critical Role, you could pick it up right away and go, I understood that reference. It was pretty neat. But we're going to break down the episodes in a series here on the channel, and we're going to talk about all those Easter eggs and little nods to the fans of Critical Role and stuff. But first, let's talk about the actual people behind Critical Role and Vox Machina and who plays these characters. All right, so these are the characters from Critical Role. I have the face of the very first voice actor, the person playing this character for the campaigns as well as for Vox Machina, the show. This is Taliesin. He plays Percival Fredrickson von Musel-Kloski, de Rollo III, a human gunslinger. And again, I'm going to say this before we go any further. I mispronounce stuff all the time. If you know me from WoTUp, I'm the king of mispronouncing things. So if I do say some things wrong, absolutely, I do apologize, but it's going to happen probably in every single video. I hope that's not a pet peeve of yours. All right, so we have Pike Trickfoot just below Percy there. She is a gnome cleric, voiced and played by Ashley Johnson. Next to them, we have Grog. Now, Grog is a barbarian, and of course, barbarians love to rage. So He is going to be voiced and played by Travis Willingham. It doesn't look like Grog at all, does he? I mean, maybe a little. You see the resemblance? Maybe just a bit. Next we have Scanlan. Scanlan is their bard. And of course, like all bards, pretty much obsessed with sex, getting laid, and treasure. That's pretty much it. Pretty much that's all he cares about. He's voiced and played by Sam Riegel. Now, then we're going to come on to the last couple characters here. Pretty neat. We have this lady right here, Marsha Ray. She plays Caliph of the Arashari, a half-elf druid. Really neat in the show. Doesn't hold her alcohol very well. Very timid. Not so sure of her powers, but pretty cool nonetheless. And then we have Vax. Now, Vax is voiced by Liam O'Brien, half-elf rogue. And then we have Vex, his twin sister, voiced by Laura Bailey. She's a half-elf ranger. Now, the whole cast is really neat. And you got to understand, they're big D&D nuts. They love D&D. That's what Critical Role was. The whole inception of this came from their web series Critical Role. So they know their characters and they embody them really, really well. Now, if you've never watched Critical Role, I really urge you to go look them up and find them because it's entertaining as hell. They really get into their characters. And if you've never played D&D, that's 95% of the fun. I mean, some people are rule followers. Some people like homebrew. Some people just like playing and hanging out with their friends. Myself personally, I like the roleplay aspect of it because I really like getting into my character and just acting like a complete and utter asshole for the few hours that we play every week. It's a whole lot of fun. All right, so here's the big question. Should you watch it? 100% yes. So if you've ever played D&D, if you like fantasy stuff, if you like anything even remotely geeky, if you like Lord of the Rings, if you like The Wheel of Time, if you like any of that stuff at all, anything Brandon Sanderson wrote, anything in that general area, you're going to love this. But I will tell you who will love it the most. People who are maybe of a certain age, like myself or a little younger maybe, who played D&D when they were younger and maybe don't have as much time now to do it as they did when they were younger, but can't sit down and watch a show. Because a lot of the things that go on here, the characters they play, the classes they play, they're played perfectly. So if you haven't seen Critical Role, you haven't seen them act out their characters on that web series, it doesn't matter. You're going to enjoy the show because you see the barbarian, you're like, yeah. When he screams and want to rage, you're like, yeah, that's 100% going to happen. The bard, sex obsessed, 100%. This is a fantastic show for anyone who even likes D&D a little bit or maybe doesn't have the time to play anymore. I would recommend it to pretty much anybody who likes any sort of geek culture. Now, the gentleman in the middle there, Matthew Mercer, he's the brainchild behind most of this, and he is arguably the best DM in the entire world. He's fantastic, and if you can think of somebody better, let me know in the comments down below, but I can't personally think of anybody better. So definitely, this one, I would watch it 100%. I give it my seal of approval. In fact, like I said earlier, I'm going to break it all down, break down all the episodes and stuff for you, but this is something that I definitely recommend anyone who likes anything about fantasy take a look at. All right. Thanks so much for sticking with me here to the very end of my first video on my new channel. I had a lot of fun making this. I'm going to have more fun breaking down the episodes, obviously, of course, and I'm going to break down that Lord of the Rings trailer a little bit and give my reactions to it as well, because I believe that's coming out here shortly. Anyway, thanks so much. Here's to many more.